Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Future of Space. I'm your host, Daniel Fox. Our guest today is Audrey Powers. Audrey is the Vice President, New Shepard Mission and Flight Operations at Blue Origin. In October of 2021, she flew to space along with Star Trek legend William Shatner. Audrey, welcome to the Future of Space.
Hi, thank you, Daniel. Great to be with you again.
Again, because we had such a great time at South by Southwest. So thank you for blocking your busy schedule for a follow-up to our conversation.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this. This is good.
So I'm really, really curious to hear your journey from law to going to space. But before we go there, could you share with us three words that for you captures the essence of space?
Yeah, I thank you for warning me that you do this, and this is fascinating to listen to all your guests' three words because it gives such perspective of like the very broad ideas that are out there about space. I very much enjoy that you do this. So for my three words, the first is humbling, and that came to me like immediately. Humbling. The second is wonder. And the third is personal. Those are my three space words.
Humbling, wonder, and personal. Thank you for recognizing or for appreciating the concept of the three words, because for me, the foundation behind that is that and I did the same thing with nature. For 4 years, I interviewed leaders from a broad spectrum of backgrounds. And I asked the same question, three words that capture the essence of nature, the teachings of nature. Because we think of space as a destination when in reality it is much more. And if we can tie this place, this destination to values and to words that connect to the human story, then we can start to unite these dividing narratives that we find, commonly around ourselves. So thank you very much, first of all, for seeing the value in it. Now, as a segue to that, Audrey, understanding that there is a science story, of going to space. There's a technology story of going to space. There's an economic story of going to space. All these stories actually find their presence in Blue Origin. What is for you the human story of going to space?
Right. I think, and maybe pertaining to your lead-in, I've had the great benefit of seeing this industry as an engineer. I started as an engineer, and then in the legal realm, very much the political and regulatory and kind of international political landscape. And there are so many important facets of each of those. But I think for me, the human story of space is exploration. I think no matter which angle you're approaching it from or which purpose you have, there is an innate need. It's not even, it's definitely a desire and a love in many cases, but there is a need for humans to travel from their initial point and to explore. And I think that's related to a thirst for knowledge, a quest for understanding, and I think that is really the basis for me. And maybe I'm being idealistic in this way, but I like to, that's very pure for me when I think about human reasons for going to space. I like to think that it's based in that core value of ours that we just can't escape.
Do you think that what we've done as a species is created a story, a narrative around this unrelentless drive of life to constantly push and go? If we look at us, after 3 point something billion years, life is just continuously looking to expand, to go to new places, whatever organism it is. But it's just that the humans, first of all, have been successful at engineering this drive, but also created the story around it of why we go to these places. I
Hmm.
mean, how do you feel about
Yeah, I think that's true. There's this when I was thinking about my three words, this idea, but I couldn't find a word that was expressive enough. The vastness of space, the overwhelming feeling that it gives you that you are insignificant, and I don't mean that in a derogatory way, but just that these these problems that consume us every day are just so minuscule in scope to what is out there. And your characterization of space as a destination is a very interesting idea. I think that's like one way of humans kind of putting it in a box that we can manage. Like, it is a place I'm going to go to. And it's like, no, it is it is the entire essence that we exist in. Like, we are part and parcel of it, and we are a very, very tiny, tiny little um, piece of it. And so I think the story that has been generated by all of the different types of people that have explored space for all of their different purposes. Um, I think it's a very worthwhile thing, and something that I've experienced with many of the Blue Origin astronauts is for people to identify what it is to them, what is their story in all of the people that have explored space for all of the purposes that we go there. um, Kind of what is their story, because everybody's going to want to hear it. When I tell you it is still a unique enough thing that everybody wants to hear what your perspective is on space. And so I think that storytelling is a big piece of it. And particularly with respect to Blue Origin, we have a founder in Jeff Bezos, and a lot of people in our company that feel very strongly about not losing the story of our past and the people that have created the foundation in this industry that we are standing on and building upon. And so that storytelling and that nod to our history and the achievements of the past is a very important narrative that we try not to lose at Blue. And I think that's obvious in a lot of the things that we do, naming New Shepard, naming New Glenn, those sorts of things. So,
I mean, it's always similar to, when the kids are leaving the nest. You don't want to say adios to your parents. You want to honor what your parents have created and sacrificed for you, and your departure ultimately ends up elevating the stability and the knowledge and the strength of the family. And in the same way that during the Great Migration of Europe to the US, that move ended up actually elevating Europe in many ways. Europe was faced with the choice of reassessing how to move forward because it was kind of a mess, and being a mess created these two incentives. One to fix the issues, and then the other one for others to seek for places that could offer new opportunity. And space now is going to be that same place. I mean, you working at Blue Origin and being surrounded by this drive to find solution and redefine what is possible must be quite, I don't know, invigorating, I assume.
it is. It is, and I started my career as a young engineer at NASA, working on the International Space Station program, and that was at the time the early construction days of the space station. Amazing, amazing technical challenges every day. And I thought, I will never, ever have a better job than this. Like, it is every day you come to work and we're sitting on console constructing the space station and EVAs and robotic ops and space shuttle flights and developing these relationships with the Russians and the Japanese and the Canadians. And it was, it was really, really invigorating, kind of all sides of your interest. engineering and kind of the government relations side and the geopolitical, international relations side. And um, the it's so interesting to me that at that time there were really no concrete thoughts about this commercial entities doing this. And I was still at NASA in the early days of the commercial, cargo program and the initial relationships with SpaceX and Orbital to, figure out how they would transport cargo to the station. And it was like worlds colliding. I mean, it was just trying to understand how these private companies would integrate very, very different companies. I mean, NASA has been supported for a long time by companies, but those companies were very much created for the purpose of servicing the government's needs. And you come at NASA with SpaceX or Blue Origin or some of these commercial companies, and it was very much like worlds colliding. And I will give it to both sides. I mean, they figured out how to really progress the industry in this way and do this amazing thing of routine commercial servicing missions and treating it like a commercial service, like an offering that the government purchases, rather than like a vehicle that they fund the development and build of. So remarkable progress in that time frame. And I still never thought at the time that, I'll go work for one of these companies one day. I don't know why it didn't strike me as something that I would do. And now that I'm at Blue, it's very interesting to look from the other side. What are the structures and the definitions in this industry that have lasted for decades that we need to continue reforming and remolding, and changing so that we can all succeed together. So it is very exciting. It is very exciting. I'll also say it's very tired. There are some days or periods that I'm like, man, I'm exhausted. So I am worn out. And it is, maybe back to one of my words, it is humbling to work in this industry, to see how much effort and intelligence and hard work that it takes to succeed at the things that we have succeeded at. And I have felt that at every organization I've worked for and supported. It is really as soon as you start thinking, oh, I got this, like I've really nailed this like space will teach you, like, nope, I'm still in charge. It is a harsh reality out there that we are just visitors in, so it is exciting. It's also exhausting sometimes.
It's for me, all my wilderness expeditions, I've always called them, it's an exercise in humility because, it's easy to feel the God complex when you're in the city in a controlled environment and you are, I mean, it is something to be admired, the ingenuity of our species. But going back into the wilderness, you're reminded that despite all that, there are forces that are bigger than you, and the best that you can do is trying to navigate with it, but not against it. There's like in the worst in the worst of days, it will totally come and take everything that it took for granted, and then and it's not about fairness. It has no care whatsoever whether you're rich, whether you're poor. We just went through COVID. It was that humility. Now, Audrey, I'm really curious because you've been talking about your background as an engineer and NASA, but when you look at your LinkedIn profile, it's mostly law. In fact, I'm not even sure that NASA or engineer is there. So
way back, you got to dig.
you
got to dig back there, 20 plus years.
connect the dots?
Yeah. Well, I started out as an engineer. I have an an aerospace engineering degree from Purdue, and that was always my dream, to be an engineer or to work in the space industry. I did so. I worked at NASA for a time, and I always wanted to do human spaceflight. And I ended up leaving NASA for family reasons, and I supported a number of government satellite programs with Lockheed Martin. So that was, you can imagine starting your career in human spaceflight at NASA. I mean, there is, like, where do you go from there as far as excitement and challenge and fulfillment? And so I said, well, now is this it? Am I just going to support, satellite programs from now on, or like, what am I gonna? So I started thinking about other degrees, and maybe I'll go continue my engineering study. I loved engineering, and so I was very interested, maybe a PhD, maybe this or that. But I was also, the great thing that the ISS program gave me was an appreciation of international relations and government relations. So fascinating. Where I work very closely with the Russians on the system that I supported on station, and I really was interested in so many other things besides engineering. So international relations. My father had been a lawyer. My mother is a very talented linguist, speaks many languages. So there's been this kind of liberal arts flair in my upbringing, and I was always very interested in the law. And I thought that, if I go to law school at night, I can continue working in this industry, because certainly there are, probably, unfortunately, lawyers doing space stuff. So I didn't exactly know what, and I ended up, continuing work in the industry, first at a law firm, and then I came to Blue Origin, and doing a lot of international technology transfer, so export controls and government contracts and FAA and FCC regulatory. So I very much was kind of swimming in that government and international world in my legal work. And fascinating time to be a lawyer. I think I graduated from law school in 2012, I want to say, or 2011, and really interested, this burgeoning commercial industry starting to operate, all sorts of interesting and challenging relationships with the FAA, and how are we going to be regulated, and we're the Wild West, and what is the government going to do with us? So it was a really fascinating time to be a lawyer in this industry too. So it was 2 years ago now that my predecessor in flight operations was retiring, and a number of people knew that I had a background in space flight operations from my engineering days, and they said maybe Audrey would be interested in coming back from the from the legal side, and I could not say yes quickly enough. It is absolutely thrilling, just figuring out how to reuse rockets, and how to get 100 flights out of a booster, and it is a fascinating challenge of engineering and materials. It's wild. So I very much enjoyed law. I have too many interests, I think, is the bottom line. This is my meandering career. Is that I'm interested in too many things, and people have been nice enough to humor my whims here.
But I think that leaders need to have a certain desire for many, for a lot of interest, because you need to keep that holistic. You need to be able to surround yourself by people that are more specialized than you, because your goal is always to be more holistic and see the pitfalls before they arrive. And that's a conversation that we had in at South by Southwest, where these, either as Jeff Bezos or Steve Jobs was similar, these individuals, rare individuals who have a capacity to see a vision, but need to surround themselves with pragmatic, realistic individuals that can actually execute. And often the difference between successful visionaries and unsuccessful visionaries is not their ideas, really is because one was lucky enough to find these people around them, and then the other was not, was not successful. You are good at transforming, taking these visions that seems to be impossible to achieve, and really breaking them down, not only through the process of law, but also the engineering aspect. That's what you do,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah, this is the first time, maybe a year into my time in this position, kind of building out some aspects of this team. We have operations, so the people sitting on console, the folks who train them, the folks who train the astronauts, and then our entire maintenance organization. So over the launch site, over the vehicles, and I thought there's no way I'm ever going to have crazy detailed knowledge of all of these things. I'm a leader now. Like that's what you call me. I'm building this team and I'm finding the people who are excellent at those things and I'm bringing them here to Blue to work on this program and to make amazing progress for this industry, hopefully, and to change people's lives. So I very much agree with you. And that is not something, there isn't a class, there isn't a course that I took somewhere, that is how do you maintain the right level of visionary and inspiration and pragmatism and being able to select people proper. It's kind of this combination of all sorts of experience and classes and mentors and leaders that I've worked with and kind of watching them and what worked for them and what didn't work for them, those sorts of things. So I think you're exactly right. And I don't know. I think I still feel very strongly that though the folks on my team, like they're the ones making this happen. They really are. We've got the visionary. We've got Jeff to look at and to listen to. But this is the folks on my team are the ones making this happen every day. I'm just kind of like occasionally steering the ship, maybe a little bit. This is kind of how I feel about myself in this moment.
I mean, this is like, having music and going to the symphony. You have the chef who's kind of, ultimately, the chef is not playing the music. All the musicians are the one with the instruments, but the chef in front is the one kind of directing and making sure that everybody comes in unison. And then you have the founder who, like, funds the symphony. And I've always said that the purpose of Jeff in the equation is not, Jeff's goal is not to be the storyteller. Like, Jeff is great at what he does, where he does it. Jeff's goal, purpose in the equation is to create opportunities for storytellers or for others to do what they do, because he's the opportunity creator. He's the one who has, the will and the vision and the finances to make those things happen. So I think it's fascinating. Now, I do want to ask you, because there's an event that happened, and now there's progress forward. There was I would call it a successful mishap that happened with the last rocket, where everything worked according in the eventuality that this case would happen. Everything worked the way it was supposed to work. Now, I understand that Blue Origin is ready to move forward. Where are we in this in relation to the next launch and the lesson learned from what happened?
Right. Where well, and I guess thank you for acknowledging all of those things. I love the idea of celebrating the right kind of failures, because that, like if we focused on this more with our children, like how much richer would we be for it? That the things that you can learn and celebrating what you learn. I really like the idea of that, and we are we've made significant progress in identifying the root causes of the booster that we lost. We were able to completely exonerate anything on the capsule side having anything to do with losing the booster, and so that that is a great success for us. The unplanned proving of that safety architecture was very very pride inducing. And so we are now having identified all of the root causes, which took an enormous team, a technical team here at Blue Origin, and also some external non-advocate reviewers kind of watching what we were doing and asking hard questions. We're now in the hard work of implementing corrective actions. And there was, we certainly started on that as we identified the causes and went along. We started working on those. But that is, that's no small feat, making sure that we implement those correctly, not just on New Shepard, but also do they reach any other areas of our organization? And so we're being very thorough in that regard and making sure that the right people in the other areas of Blue have the insight that they need for what we've all of the findings that we've made. So that is hard work and it takes a lot of effort. So we are confident that we'll fly this year. Our next flight is going to be a payload flight. So the flight that had the issue was a payload flight. And NASA Flight Opportunities primarily was our primary customers, came through Flight Opportunities, and we'll fly those customers again on the next flight. So we're over a big hump in the kind of determining the root causes and the contributing causes and figuring out what actions we have to implement. So so it's been a big deal to get this far, and I'm very proud of all the work we've done to get here. But still a bit to go, but we're confident we'll fly this year. So excited for that. That's what I'm supposed to be doing here is launching rockets.
Well, absolutely excited. And again, congratulations, because I think that we take for granted in today, there's still some issues with cars today. We still some issues with planes and ways, and we're happy when we there's a car accident that the bags deployed timely and rightly, and the only way that you can assure those is actually by going through these trials and errors. And obviously, when you have a rocket, it's a little bit more dramatic. But the fact that through this unfortunate incident, the safety measures and the way that it was supposed to happened the way that, according to plan, that is itself a success. So congratulations on that. And I'm looking forward to the next flight.
Yeah, so am I. So am I, for sure.
Now, Audrey, I do want to hear you about your experience of going to space. You and I mean, you've spent a lot of time with William Shatner. We know his experience about how it reconnected him with this drive and this passion to protect and to care for the planet. I was talking to Chris Bushhausen, and Chris was telling me how it was not the opposite, but for him, there was almost a pull that you want to go in the opposite direction. You want to go to space. There was this desire that just to go out the window and just keep going. What was it for you? What was the experience, the launch, the force, the looking out the window, everything, and then coming back?
Yeah, this is it's been very interesting for me to listen to the perspectives of people like Bill and Chris and Glenn before we lost him. That I supported I have been at Blue going on 10 years. So I have supported New Shepard the entire time that I've been here. So I know a lot about this program and this vehicle and this experience. And even with all of that knowledge, all of the things that I was expecting and that I knew would happen, and then it was still so new and unexpected in so many ways. And there were so many things that happened that I said, oh, this is what we meant when we did this, and really, really an overwhelming sensory experience. I mean, every one of your senses just overloaded. And the it, yeah, I still think that having watched so many space flight and launches and space flight activities, I still think it was easier for me to be on the vehicle than to be standing there watching, and thinking through my job and all the things that could happen. And I yeah, I was very appreciative afterwards that we had Bill on for an unexpected reason. He's such a poet, um, and his expression of what he experienced, I thought was so just wonderfully authentic, and it is still really difficult for me to explain the colors that I saw and to make that real for people when I talk to them. And they're the in a nutshell, the experience itself was so exhilarating and exciting. I mean, a vertical launch is just the engine, sitting on the pad and the engine firing, and you sit there for a good 7 or 8 seconds before the bolts blow and you take off. And it's like, I mean, I know that you sit there for a while, but it's like when you're sitting there for a while and the entire capsule is glowing orange and the flames are coming out from beneath you, you're like, yep, I'm on fire. Like any time now we can go. And I do think there's some design aspects of New Shepard that I was just really proud. When I got back and spoke with all my friends here on the development teams and the engineering teams, the vehicle rotates the entire flight to give everybody a 360-degree view, so you don't feel like, oh, I got to get across the capsule because I want to see something over there or whatever. It rotates the entire time, so you can stay at your window, and you can just watch everything go by. And that is really, really awesome on the way up. You're kind of getting this view of the Earth disappearing beneath you as you're kind of rotating 360 degrees. So, and then the zero G portion of it is real. I thought, oh, is this gonna go by quickly? And obviously, I'm a person who would love to be up there for a very long time, but it was. I was surprised at how. And this was, advice that we certainly got from the folks who flew before us, like, be really, really present. Do you something that Mark Bezos said to me, who flew on our first flight, do you meditate? Because being like an ability to be present and really, really recognize those moments, you're going to want that. And he was exactly right. So the fun of zero G, we certainly experienced that. Superman across the cabin and somersaults and standing on your head and all of those things. But there is we were all four of us were very, very well aligned that we want to look out the window. We don't want to, throw Skittles to each other or water droplets or anything like this. Like, we want to look out the window. So are we all good with that? Yeah. Okay. We're all good with that. And, it's like nothing else. And the colors are so vibrant. That was another word I've thought of when you told me your prompt, that it's as if someone removes a filter. Even on the clearest night, looking up at the black sky and the stars, it is so much more clear and vivid than that. And it's almost like the blackness of space. It's almost like it had a texture, you know, and it contrasted with the white clouds below us and the blue line of the atmosphere. The colors are something I hope I never ever forget, because they were just so unexpectedly vivid. So I was very happy to kind of hear how overwhelmed Bill was, but still able to get out some, what I thought were very authentic words about what we experienced. So that is, and reentry, like there is no relief like hearing those mortars fire on the parachutes. Like there is, you are coming in hot, and there is like, and I know, like, I know what altitude the drogues fire, and I'm like, yep, it still seems like a long time. And so, yeah, just amazing all around.
It was, I mean, you talk about Bill, and yes, I mean, this is, this is for me one of the reasons that I think that the Renaissance was successful, is because powerful, rich people knew the value in getting artists to tell the story. The Da Vinci's and the architects, they were able to say, listen, it's not our job to create a vision of the future or to tell a story. We'll give you whatever you want. Go and do what you do best. Bill is someone who was primed all his life to translate the emotions of a moment and really find the ways. And he's a stand-up comedian. He's able to really kind of own and zone in into that emotion. And you can see, I would always remember, he's out of the capsule and he's trying to process, and Jeff is like killing his buzz, and he's like, Jeff, you're like, no, let me be in that moment. And you see how Bill took that and take it to what he's doing right now. And the other moment, I think it was the flight after you, the other engineer, from Blue Origin.
Oh, Gary, yeah,
Gary,
our architect.
And
yeah,
yes, and Gary comes back, and it's the total opposite, right? His mind cannot process what he experienced, and you can see the breakdown of his rationale going, I don't know what just happened.
And to know Gary, it was so wonderfully fulfilling to see him that way. Because Gary is kind of this rock for us, and he is dependable, and he is pragmatic, and he has answers, and that, and Gary will help you figure out the problems. And it was just so great to see him just a little bit like, childlike. And I'm like, I'm overwhelmed and can't process this. Yeah, that was great. That was a great day.
Do you think for me, this is the thing that ultimately, there's two questions that I want to send to you. Two remarks, and you can take them where you want to take them. I don't think that we give the human species enough credit, because we rise in some of the worst times. When we go through the rough and tough, this is when we come together. And also, there's a physicality to life. There's as much as we can talk about love, we can talk about grief, we can talk about failure, we can prepare ourselves. There's a physicality to experiencing life that is humbling, that is moving, that brings us that richness of what it is to be human. And now that we're going to go to space, we're going to bring that human experience. It's not just about bare bone and just, camping with freeze-dry food and, peeing in the bag, and then that's it. There's going to be the human, the physicality of experience. Do you believe in the human species to accomplish the impossible? And do you believe that there's a physicality to life that, independently of how technology is going to become more and more present, there's still going to be this value of that experience?
I hope so. And maybe a bit revealing about me. I'm very much a realist. I don't know that anyone would accuse me of being an optimist, I will say. And I'm a bit hard on us as humans, I would say, a lot. My kind of resting position is we need to be doing better. Um, in a lot of ways, we need to be doing better for each other. We need to be doing better for the planet. And that frustrates me a great deal. So I have very high standards for humanity, and I think we're not meeting them in a lot of ways. With that said, I completely agree with you that there have been moments that we have shined, and we have really come through and persevered and prevailed, at times when maybe I would have predicted us to do worse. um, that said, I think one something that I am so thankful I get to be a part of at Blue is we are using New Shepard to open up space to more types of people. And that is such an important part of what we do. And I knew this about us before I flew, that we want to fly artists, and we want to fly musicians and poets, and we want to fly people with different abilities, with different physical abilities and different mental abilities, and folks that space has been closed off to them, traditionally, and we are looking to make real progress in those areas. And I think that just makes all of us across the board better. And I'm very much a person that my entire life, I would love to go train for years and go live on the space station for 6 months, and that sort of thing is very appealing to me. I knew tons of people who, but nope, no interest. I do not want to do anything like that. But those same people looked at what I did on New Shepard, and they said, I would do that in a second. If I could go train for a few days and go get a taste of space, go get an introduction to it, and see what this is that is making people, lose their minds and their emotions. And I would do that in a second. And that is a real shift, at least in the circles that I have experience with in my life. Um, that is a real shift in people who are interested in this and see the impact that it can have on humans as individuals, and then kind of broader, across humanity, as we start sending all of these interesting souls with different experiences out there into the world. So I really do. This is one area where I am optimistic, and I do. Also, like I think I'm approaching this with a healthy dose of realism. It's going to take a lot to fly a lot of people, and that's what we're here for. And I feel like we're going about it in the right way. Partnering with people like Space for Humanity, and getting folks who could never afford this, at the expense that it exists right now, and we're figuring out ways to fly them. And I'm really proud, to be part of that, and I think we're going to improve some stuff, I hope.
That's something to be proud. That's for sure. I mean, you look at Kat now, who's blossoming into this person, and just spreading into, and showing to the world that even people who never thought that it would be possible for them, there are opportunities. And you were talking, and I was kind of imagining, even back in the days of the age of exploration, where originally these sailing ships would leave and then go and explore, and at the beginning the crew was really mainly oriented towards whoever could actually participate and make sure that the boat doesn't crash, until you have, at one point, you have someone like Charles Darwin, whose sole purpose is to go and tell the story of these places where they go. And Charles Darwin leads to this turning point into the knowledge of our evolution. And William Shatner, having this person at that time in his life, someone who's connected to a role that he's played all his life, he's primed to take in everything in and really find the words. Now, before we end with the question I always end, I do want to ask you, within Blue Origin and the training that you just said that you're doing before you go up, do you is Blue Origin looking into giving a little bit of context for anyone who's going to go up in space and say, listen, this are these kind of emotions. Let us give you a framework so that you can kind of understand a little bit the overview effect and so forth.
Mm. So, yeah, during our part of our training it is very tactical. You know, this is ingress, this is egress, this is emergency things, all of that. We also give the crew an opportunity to plan what you want to do during your 4 or so minutes of zero gravity. And now that we have the examples of a number of crews, we can share with them, you know, this is what others have chosen to do. We have video of those flights that we can show people. I mean, some people have been almost as emotional as Bill when they unstrap. You know, when they unstrap and float for the first time, there are tears running down their face. And so it is, you know, we have these data points now in the emotional response of our astronauts, which is a really fun and very interesting thing to share with our upcoming astronauts in training. And so you know, maybe you want to go up there and do gymnastics. Maybe you want to throw ping pong balls around, you know, and that's fine. This is your time. This is your time. So plan. And, you know, maybe it will be unexpected. Maybe you won't. There, you know, some people have gone up there and thought, I was going to do all of these things and I just couldn't take my eyes off the window. Like I couldn't, and that was all. You know, it grabbed me and I couldn't do anything else. And so it is really, really great to have that insight to share with people and just make them think a little bit more about what might this experience be like, so they can plan for it.
So back to the final question that I want to ask you. Of someone who has a really, really interesting background, went from the engineer to the law, you went to space, you're rational, you make things happen, but also, yeah, I just learned that your family, you have this balance also, the arts and then the rational, the aspect. Um, what what would be your 3 words of wisdom for anyone? And I mean, it's not necessarily for someone who's starting, but for like someone who's looking for the counsel in mid-career, or someone who's young. What would be your Audrey's 3 words of
um, well, I think the first would be collaboration. And this is, you know, whether it was my engineering career or my legal career or working with the government, that there is no success as an individual. Like you are never going to get as far as an individual as you will if you are collaborating with it. And that goes for countries. It goes for your colleague down the hall. It is, you know, once that switch kind of flipped for me, and I think it happened in college when I was at Purdue, and then it like doubled down on it when I was in law school. I never would have made it through law school if I didn't have like my key people that we all like bonded together and said we are going to get through this together. So that is, you know, collaboration is the best path to failing to fail, you know. And I think my second, probably to my last point, is, you know, is figure out where you get your energy from, and you know, help like rely on those areas. If it's family, if it's exercise, if it's meditate, you know, whatever it is, because this is hard. You know, what we're doing is hard. And I think many people, at least folks that I surround myself with, they want to do hard things because it's so fulfilling, and it takes a whole lot of energy. So figure out where you get your energy from and really like nurse those nurse those things. And then the last, the last one is something like, it's something like, you know, appreciating appreciating things that are not like you. I don't know, what is one word for that? Like look at folks who are different, whether it's race or gender or socioeconomic status or education or whatever, and see what's great about them and what can you appreciate, rather than kind of, sometimes I feel like a knee-jerk human response is they're not like me, they're not on my team. um, and it's so there's so much out there that tells us that is just wrong. And being open-minded and being accepting and appreciative of things that aren't like you. So I don't know whatever one word is for that.
I'll find the
Yeah,
word, but
we can,
it's
I owe you that one.
but it's for me, one thing that brings that, there are two things that really brings the this capacity to understand other perspective is obviously traveling, going into other places where you get to discover new cultures, but also sharing a meal, sitting at the table with people that are not necessarily from the same environment, but there's a magic that happens at that table. Every time that I did my solo wilderness expeditions, part of my process was always to find myself at these tables so that I could hear these stories and realize, and in those experiences, you realize that we're all the same. At the end of the day, we're all the same. Independent of our backgrounds, we all want to put food on the table. We all want to give our children a future, and then we want to be valued. And then after that, it gets complicated a little bit. But the magic of food and wine and being at the table, that for me is like brings that. And the other thing that I was thinking when you were talking about collaboration and being connectedness, like the metaphor that I often say is, there's the human body is an example of that collaboration. There's not one organ that can exist on its own. Each one is interdependent and interconnected with all the others. Even the lungs don't are nothing by themselves. It's everything else around them that makes them. So yeah, I totally can relate to
Yep.
that.
Take a lesson from ourselves.
Exactly.
you know.
Andre, this was fun. This was fun
Yeah, this was great.
conversation.
Thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me. I appreciate it.
Yes. So I'm looking forward for our next conversation.
Yes.
Either it's in. I understand you're going to be on vacation for a little bit, so enjoy your vacation,
Thank you
and
very much.
good luck to the entire team. I can't wait to see the new launch for the new Shepard and Glenn and all
Thanks.
the upcoming flights.
Yeah. Thank you, Daniel. I appreciate it. Look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you.
Bye.